In 2025, the world turned its eyes to Oslo. Cameras flashed, applause thundered, and history was written. For the first time ever, the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to a Venezuelan. But this was not just any recipient. This was a woman who had stared down dictators, who had been banned, threatened, and silenced, yet refused to surrender. Her name, María Corina Machado. Her victory was not born in palaces or boardrooms, but in the streets of Caracas, in the voices of millions who yearned for freedom, and in the relentless courage of a woman who decided that her nation's dignity was worth any sacrifice. This is not just the story of a Nobel Prize. This is the story of a fight for democracy, for justice, and for peace, and of a woman who proved that even against the strongest walls of repression, one voice can still echo loud enough to change the world. María Corina Machado was born on October 7, 1967 in Caracas, into a country once rich and vibrant, now shadowed by corruption and decay. Trained as an industrial engineer, her path could have been one of comfort and success, but history had other plans. In the early 2000s, as Hugo Chávez tightened his grip on Venezuela, María Corina co-founded SUME, a civic organization dedicated to free and fair elections. It was a daring act, a direct challenge to a government determined to control every vote, every voice, every life. Her work with SUME turned her into a symbol of resistance, and almost instantly into a target. When she stepped into the National Assembly in 2010, she carried not just her voice, but the frustration of millions who were watching their democracy dissolve. Her speeches shook the chamber, but they also shook the regime. She was mocked, silenced, even stripped of her parliamentary seat. Yet she refused to be erased. As she once declared, "We are not fighting for an election. We are fighting for the soul of our nation." Her battle grew fiercer under Nicolás Maduro, who inherited Chávez's throne but multiplied the suffering. Inflation devoured salaries, families fled by the millions, and the streets echoed with hunger and despair. And yet in the middle of this darkness, María Corina stood unbroken. She was banned from office, smeared as a traitor, threatened with prison, and still she pressed forward. At rallies, she raised her voice to exhausted crowds and declared, "No regime is stronger than the courage of its people." Her words were more than rhetoric. For many, they were a lifeline, a reminder that their suffering was not invisible, that their struggle was not in vain. She endured assaults, arrests, surveillance, and harassment, but she never chose exile. She stayed, she stood, and in her defiance, she gave her people something the regime could never steal: hope. As the years passed, her fight broke beyond Venezuela's borders. She became a global voice for human dignity, warning the world not to turn its back on her country. In Washington, in Brussels, in countless forums, she spoke not only of Venezuela's hunger and oppression, but of a truth that resonates far beyond. Peace is not simply the absence of war, but the presence of democracy and freedom. The world listened. Slowly, the name María Corina Machado came to stand for something larger than politics. She was not just an opposition leader. She was the embodiment of resistance, a woman who taught the world that courage has no borders and that silence is never an option. And then came October 10, 2025. In Oslo, the Nobel Committee announced her name. For her unwavering fight for democracy, peace, and human rights in Venezuela, carried out with courage, dignity, and hope. In her acceptance speech, her words carried the weight of a nation. "This prize is not mine alone. It belongs to every Venezuelan who has suffered, resisted, and dreamed of freedom. It belongs to mothers who lost children, to families forced into exile, to those who still believe in tomorrow." For Venezuela, it was more than an award. It was validation, proof that the world had heard their cries, that their struggle mattered. María Corina Machado's legacy is not written in titles or positions, but in resilience. She showed the world that peace is born in the courage to confront fear, that democracy can survive even in exile, and that hope can outlast hunger, bullets, and silence. From the streets of Caracas to the stage of Oslo, her journey is a testament. No matter how dark the night, one light, if it burns bright enough, can guide an entire nation forward.